Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and today's video is going to be a rather long video on social media witchcraft. I'm a little bit late to the party actually. I've just not really been available to film until now, but the Polish witch, Ella Harrison, and the Red-Headed Witch collaborated on this hashtag called occult tea, and it's just inspiring people and prompting people to go talk about these really important topics, and it was such a good video idea, so I wanted to do a video too and participate in the hashtag. So go watch their videos because they're already out and have been for a while. I'll link them down below. Go support them because they're all amazing people. I'm gonna be going through their questions and hoping that, you know, we can have a conversation in the video comments and just talk about some of these things which are really important to talk about. So the beginning sort of prompt is an introduction, introducing yourself. So introduce yourself. How long have you been practicing in the witchcraft online space? What practices and topics do you primarily discuss? So my first video on this channel was on the 22nd of October 2020. I started making videos really because I grew up as a pagan, establishing more of a witchcraft practice a bit later, but I sort of grew up knowing about spells and all this sort of stuff because my mum taught me when I was quite young. And I guess for a long time it's always been like a weird thing that I did because no one at school was what I was. And I just didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. And then when I started being in online spaces a bit more, like I was in like an Animal Crossing community on Twitter and actively spoke about being a pagan, being a witch, and people were really interested online. So I thought, oh, okay, well, I can make some videos. I started also watching WitchTube around this time as well. I thought, why not? I'll just start making videos. And then people liked them and here we are. So it started off as just, I think my first video was like a spell video, and then I just started doing random educational ones. Like I think I then did like one on Book of Shadows and then one on like altars, and then I just sort of liked the idea of doing more one-on-one stuff. But I think I got to a point where I was also expanding more deeply into my English folk magic and wanted to talk more about that because that was something which was more authentic to me as a witch and, you know, as a pagan, but also as an educator. So I started talking about that more, and my career was also heading towards environmentalism, working as an ecologist now, so obviously I also wanted to talk about that in my videos. So yeah, that's what I discuss primarily. It is witchcraft basics, but I do like talking about more advanced topics, and specifically English folk magic, English folk witchcraft, and environmentalism stuff. So yeah. Topic number one though starts off with discussing the impact on community. So the first question is, what is my personal reason, inspiration for sharing my practice online? So my own personal reason is like, mainly I just, I mean this is really cliche, people say it's a lot, but when I was younger, when I was in secondary school trying to learn, you know, there wasn't really YouTube like this. There wasn't really Discord servers that we've got. There wasn't any of that, or if there was some bits of that, I was not a part of it. I did not find those communities. So when I was like in secondary school, this is ages like 11 to 16, I was trying to research and find what felt right for me, and I just really like, not that I struggled, but you know, I was just doing research on anything, but these were like random websites, you know, there wasn't really that much else. A lot of it was a self-study job, but there wasn't really the resources that we have now. This is amazing that we have all of these books, all of this knowledge relatively ready at our fingertips, you know. There just wasn't that when I was younger, so I think I just wanted something which I could have had when I was younger, or I would have wanted to have had when I was younger. So that's my main goal. A lot of people say it, but it is genuinely one of the main reasons why I wanted to educate. And the next question goes more into like, what am I looking to achieve in this participation? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? And I seek all three. Is that a cop-out answer? I hope not. But I do seek to educate because I feel like I have stuff to bring to the table, which is, it's why people start doing this. I seek to learn, as a creator, as an educator. I don't want anyone to ever think that I know everything. I don't know everything. There's so much that I have to learn. There's so much that I want to learn. My craft is just a never-ending story, a never-ending journey. And being able to connect with other people, to connect with not just viewers but other creators, authors, just this like web of people that, this community that's been created, it's just a privilege really. It's lovely to be able to connect and learn from each other. So really my answer is all three. How do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? It's really tough to say because it has been good. Overall, it has been good. The ability to connect with people, and this is something I did speak about in a members only video where I talked about my experiences in person communities and on like online communities and the difference between the two. So if you want to watch that, maybe check out my membership stuff. But anyway, I do think overall it's been a positive impact to be able to connect with the amount of people, the diversity of people that you come across, not just in gender or race or sexuality, but like also traditions of magic and paganism. The issue I had growing up was that a lot of it was just Wicca. And it wasn't even explicitly like, oh, it's Wicca only. Like it just felt very much everyone was pulling from the same sources, because we were, But now there is so much more voice to different traditions, stuff that people didn't really know much about before, but now there's whole books being written about it. So all this idea of like a more animistic folk witchcraft, traditional witchcraft, even like regional folk magic traditions like Mexican magic, and all these really, really interesting paths that now there is so much information about, and people are able to explore different things. That has had a substantial impact on the community because people are, I think, tend to be less ignorant. We still have a lot of way to go, but overall people don't feel like there's like one way to practice magic or there's one way to be a pagan. But then also social media has its flaws. It's not perfect, and there are bigots everywhere in day-to-day life and online, and there are things which make the community look bad. Like TikTok is such an easy example to give because many people know like the hexing of the moon scenario, or like all of the rubbish stuff that would like pop up on there. I just cannot be bothered to go for it. But yeah, like there's all sorts of stuff that have happened which paint us witches as pagans in a terrible light because people don't take us seriously. People don't take us seriously anyway, let alone having some random like young kids talking about hexing the moon. Like they then don't take us seriously even more. So there's pros and cons to it, but overall, if we're sort of putting that stuff aside, I do think it has had a positive impact, which follows on to the next question quite well. How do I think social platforms such as TikTok, Instagram and YouTube have impacted education or sharing information online? And I'll follow it to the next one. Is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? So yes is my answer to the last one, but also no. I don't know. I'm gonna be really annoying in this video and just answer them like really annoyingly. So I think TikTok is just a bad platform. in general, but in a bad platform for education. I tried it, I really did. I tried to do book style videos, but generally, like, I'm not here to show how fancy my life is, because it's not. I live quite a boring life. And I think there is this tendency on Instagram as well for creators or just people in general to paint their life like a movie, which, to be fair, like, if you want to create cute cinematic content, I'm not saying that is a bad thing or whatever, but a lot of the times, a lot of what you see is staged, so don't feel like all of the spells that you see, elaborate spells and all of the lovely trinkets and things, is the norm, because it isn't really. Like, the issue with TikTok is that a lot of people would talk about their experiences in like a skit-like form, so in like a, not necessarily a comedy routine, but in this kind of like dramatisation, because they're visual platforms and you can't really display in video format a lot of practice because it is internal, or it is like isolated to things like the spirit realm, the other world, in journeying, in spirit flight, in ritual. These things are very hard to like just do a quick video about because you can't really show it in that way. So people do these dramatic sort of like things, and people take that as what it should be or what it must be or something similar, and it's just not right. It's not that it's not right, it's just not the best way to step into witchcraft, i.e. it's not a good educational platform. Instagram does suffer from this as well, but it's less bad because most of the time people are just sharing pretty pictures, and there is room for educational content on Instagram. You know, if you find the right creators, you can find some really interesting stuff on there. But I do really struggle with, as a creator, the aesthetic side to content creation. I feel like sometimes when I'm in bad headspaces, not so much anymore, but maybe like when I was first doing videos, I felt like I really needed to do all of the spell video tutorial reels or short form content, or like really pretty altar setups, and part of me was like, oh, I don't really want to show my altar that much, and I don't really like own like 1,000 candles that I can just dispose of for a video. Like, I don't want to waste material and things like that. So a lot of that, I think, is pressure put on a creator, let alone like people just starting out. So, you know, I think YouTube is the best educational platform for witchcraft because you can have videos like this. You know, you can upload videos that are hours long. You can also upload short form content if you want to now, but ultimately there is scope for in-depth discussions, actual nuance that you can talk about, and it just feels a bit more like personable, candid. You know, this is me just sitting in my study talking to a camera, you know, that is it. I'm not like doing anything that fancy, but I just having a conversation, and I think that is valuable to have when you're educating on things like this. Stuff as complicated as witchcraft and paganism is not a simple path to follow, really. And touching on that last question, is consuming content being a substitute for witchcraft? Ultimately, I think for a lot of people, yeah. Like, it's very hard to not do that for some people, and you know, I find myself slipping into that sometimes. And I think, to be honest, a lot of people would be lying if they didn't. But you gotta just limit your social media time. If you find yourself scrolling through and consuming a lot, maybe you should like substitute that habit for something else. I stopped going on social media as much as I was like during the pandemic and all the lockdowns, and I just feel so much better. I have done for a good like nearly a year now that I've stopped going on line as much as I was, because it was just all consuming, and that's not what it's really about. connecting with people online is amazing. I've learned so much and I've made so many good friends, but ultimately you gotta think about the purpose of what drew you to this path, spirituality, religion, whatever you sort of call it. What drew it to you in the first place? Why are you a witch? You know, what's the point for you? You gotta think about that, ground yourself in your own reality, and then you'll maybe start putting things into perspective. Because a lot of the time people will post pictures and stuff, or like they'll be doing a whole sort of spell routine and they'll film it, and I always think like, is that a fake spell, or is that like a spell that they've done but they've also just filmed and then posted online? I don't know, it would just feel weird for me, but that's just me, so I don't know. Topic number 2 is all about influencer authenticity. Out of what I share on social media, how much of it is staged versus reality? And what I share online is all reality because I don't really post witchy content. I do obviously, but I don't post spells. I don't post like myself really that much. What I do post nowadays on Instagram is stuff like ecology things, so I post a lot of like habitat like pictures, or I post like botany stuff, and that's just me rambling about those things because that's what I love, and that's not staged because that is my job, so I'm just doing my job and then talking about it online. So I honestly quite happily gonna say that not much of it is staged. When I have staged things, it will be things like making a thumbnail, or maybe I'll do the odd video of like a statue that I've like made, but ultimately I don't really share my details of my practice because I don't feel like I need to. I don't feel like you need to educate. I also just feel like I don't really want to, you know, so a lot of the time I haven't staged anything. Maybe I did when I first was a creator and I would post some Instagram spell pictures, but I quickly sort of grew out of that because I just couldn't keep it up and it just felt wrong. But that's just me. Do I think there is an element of censorship in online spaces? How do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what I keep private? Is this based on social media etiquette or a personal preference? Censorship, I'm not sure. I mean, there is a lot of like, there's social media guidelines for not showing things like blood or knives or any really like taboo discussions that people don't really talk about because it's uncomfy for a lot of people, but also it sort of goes against guidelines, or like it reduces ad suitability and things like that. So, you know, a lot of people don't talk about those things for those reasons. I haven't really felt the need to talk about that kind of stuff because I either don't practice it or I'm very new to it. But again, I censor myself in that way because it's my practice, and I don't feel like I owe anyone the ins and outs of my practice. I'm happy to share experiences when it's appropriate, when I'm educating, but ultimately, yeah, a lot of what I actually do is private because that's between me and my spirits. So, have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Do I recognise them? What are the significant signs of grifters in the community? There are so many. I think a lot of it is tied to consumerism and money. So you'll see people who perhaps immediately push for monetary gains. So either they'll like start selling stuff, but they haven't really established much of a community or impact. That's always a little bit of a for me, but a lot of the time it's people that just are out for themselves. There's also the whole thing of like AI books and AI content now, which I'm sure will be an increasing problem in times to come, but at the moment the main problem is AI books, and there is also like scammers, so people impersonating other creators. I've had that a couple times, which is really weird because I'm not a popular Instagram creator. I barely barely post anything on there, yet people were impersonating me, so that was weird. I also think a lot of them are bots, so I don't know. But there is a definite problem with AI books now that it's quite annoying, it's quite upsetting as a upcoming author and writer to think that there might be AI bots out there that could steal your work and earn a lot more just from pushing out content really easily through a program. Is upsetting, really. Like, take Mari Salva, you see all of these sorts of books on Amazon by these like authors that there's no information about them online. That's why, like, doing your vetting process when you are buying books, when you're supporting creators, just research about them, you know. The internet is at your disposal. Do some research. There's barely anything out there about these authors, AI authors, that produce like 100 books in a year. It's just not possible. So yes, there are grifters, there's lots of different signs. I'll post some videos down below about spotting grifters because I don't think I really did it justice here, but it's important to know. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation, and how can we as a community prevent widespread misinformation? So I think something which I have liked to focus on is encouraging and educating on analysis, critique, and generally just being able to use your intuition and you know, your skills of research to vet what you're doing, as noted before. So a lot of that is giving people the tools to be able to do that, because not everyone knows. Not everyone is either like computer savvy, or not everyone has like studied things like psychoanalysis, or not many people just really know how to analyze things as well as other people do, which is fine, you know. But I think educating about how you can go about that, get better at vetting the books that we read, for example, I did a video on that, is helpful in order to educate yourself on what misinformation looks like and how we can actually prevent that. Honestly, as a community, I just think having these important discussions, talking about the uncomfortable things, is really helpful. That's why I love doing these Let's Discuss videos, because I'm just talking about things which I've thought about but I don't see a lot of people talk about. So I'm gonna open that up and then talk about it more, and I see so many other creators doing the same thing, and I think the more that we do this, the more we're making these uncomfortable things more comfortable, and there will be less misinformation if we're talking about these things. So that's my thoughts on that. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Does this immediately make them an expert? Or are there other assumptions as to why they may have a large following? Yeah. There are a lot of assumptions you can make as to why someone would have a large following. Obviously, there is a whole bunch of biases that I don't really need to go into detail about in this video that can influence people becoming popular. But as far as it goes in the witchcraft community, I think a lot of the time people do see creators with big followings, and big followings in our community is like a few 100,000 subscribers maybe. You know, that's a big following in our community. I think that a lot of people see the follower count and go, oh, they're important, I need to listen to what they have to say. And I'm not saying that's not the case, but there are so many small creators out there that are overlooked because of so many different reasons, and it is a shame, to be honest. Just because you have a following doesn't mean you're super smart and know everything. I have like a small to medium following and I don't know everything. Like, I'm always learning. Even the topics that I specialise in, I'm always learning, and that's okay. Being able to admit that is okay. I think there's a big taboo on being like, oh, I don't know everything, because, oh, if you don't know everything, why are you a teacher? I was like, well, that's not how the world works. So this is why you vet people. Just look at the like history of their practice, of their work, or what they educate online. Look at all the different factors, you know. Just because someone has a big following doesn't mean that actually they know a lot. So yeah. Anyway, the last question on this topic is, how does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? The way that I'm doing it, or how I settled on what I think is a good balance for me was just not really sharing my practice online. Maybe I'll share some experiences, like I said before, but most of what I sort of show in my videos, I don't really do things like B-roll. A lot of my videos is just this, which thank you guys for liking, because I appreciate that. It might be boring, but I don't have the energy to do all the fancy filming and all the fancy music and editing. It's just not for me. It doesn't feel authentic to me, but a lot of people get a lot of joy and have that creativity to show something in a way which is more theatrical and cinematic, which I am not dissing at all. It's just not for me. So that's how I maintain my balance. Just focusing on what I really want to do is just to sit down and talk with you guys. If we could do this at a pub, it'd be amazing. If we could all sit down in a room and have like some blankets and some tea and just chat, I would love that. But this is how you reach people, so that's why I'm doing it here. So, you know, a lot of people will find that balance in different ways, but for me, it's just being about honest to who you are and what you actually want to do, who I am as a person, and how I can translate that in my education, if that makes sense. Topic number 3 is all about imposter syndrome and FOMO, which means fear of missing out. So the first question is, when I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired and empowered, or does it create feelings of FOMO or being less than? When I first started making content, I definitely felt more of the latter. I felt like, oh god, I should be doing that. Then I also think at that time I wasn't being truly authentic to myself, so, you know, you just learn from these things, and now I think I've gotten to a point where it is a lot more, I get inspired by other people. That's why I like love discovering new creators and just learning about things that aren't really related to my practice as well, because it is very inspiring. When I do watch WitchTube, I do really get inspired by what I see. It's so nice seeing other people educating in ways which are authentic to them. And I think it's really great, and I think there's a lot to, there's sort of magic to that, to be able to sort of see what other people are doing. I really get inspired by it. So nowadays, I think I feel more inspired. If I experience fear of missing out, has it ever left me feeling vulnerable to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise? An example would be the need to purchase the latest popular product or a book to fit in. Yes, to be honest. I think Ella spoke about this in her video. So, a lot of what people share online in the States, for example, are these like, these candles, 7-day candles. They call them novena candles, with like prayer candles, but essentially it's these really long glass like ones. This one I actually like can pull out, which is quite cool, but you can't find these anywhere in the UK. I've only got these, like I did a shop and just bought a whole bunch because one seller in the UK sells them for an actual decent price. Usually, everywhere else, I've seen them sold for £15 a candle, right? And that's just too much money. It's extortionate. And I'm not paying like shipping fees to get stuff shipped over from the States. It's just not worth it. So little things like that sometimes I see and I'm like, I wish I could go to a pound store and just get like 1 million of these candles for dirt cheap. I just can't do that. And I love them because they're so like witchy and people post them online all the time and you get to draw really cool things on it and blah blah blah. So like, you know, sometimes I get that FOMO and it's hard to sort of like get out of it because it is this intense kind of like, you know, I should be doing that, or I should be doing that. But again, a lot of it is just stepping back, grounding yourself and being like, I don't need these things. I bought these because I thankfully had the means to and wanted to use them in my practice, but that FOMO is not something which should really lead to financial distress and things like that. People obviously love books in our community, but you do not need 1,000 books to help you become a witch. You don't really need any books to become a witch. Obviously they're very helpful, very, very helpful, and they can help you advance your craft. But ultimately, you know, you just need a mentor or a guide or intuition. So when practicing my craft, do I find myself comparing what I do to what I've been seeing people do online? What would my practice look like without the social media influence of other creators? To be fair, yeah, I do see that my craft does look quite differently to other people online, but I quite like that. I think my craft now is in this really unique stage. I was about to say phase, but it's not really a phase, but it's just a really unique point in my life where it's a really nice blend of the work I do as an ecologist and connecting with land spirits, land veneration and plant magic with my botanical studies. So it's something which is very unique to me, and it's not something that I see other people do online, and I think that is quite cool, to be honest. Not to, big myself up, but it is nice that it is something which is more special to my life. And so I don't really feel any sort of negative way about it. If anything, I think it's really cool that practices can be so different, yet we can be doing similar things. I see people talk about land veneration or working with plant spirits, and it is very different to how I do it, and I don't feel that makes it like they're doing it wrong or I'm doing it wrong. We're doing the same practice just in different ways, and that's completely fine, so. And when I was younger, I probably would get a lot more insecure, but I think I'm a little bit more self-secure about these things now. And without social media, it's hard to really tell what my practice would look like without social media. I think it would still be quite land-based because of just the job that I do, but it might be different in terms of what I use. Maybe I wouldn't be using these candles. That's really tough to say. I don't actually know what to say on that one. It's really, really tough. But I'm just going to move on to the fourth topic because my camera is probably about to die and I want to be able to film this all in one go. So, topic number 4. Capitalising off community. Do I consider online communities as equally valid to in-person communities? Yeah, I do. But also, they're not the same. So online communities are great for connecting with a variety of people, learning different things about different traditions all across the world, coming outside of your bubble a little bit, which I think is really, really good to do. But in-person communities has this essence that just can't be recreated online. Whether it's the psychology of just face-to-face interaction, that feeling of being with another person, being able to communicate in such more of an intimate way, I think is just something you can't really recreate that much, or as much. I don't know. That's just my opinion though. So I think they're equally valid, but I do think there are distinct differences between the two. How have online witchcraft and occult communities impacted me as a person and a practitioner? I think they have impacted me so much. I think I've been able to make friends with people all across the world and being able to see their perspectives, their traditions that they're a part of. It's amazing. It's so amazing, and it's helped me finalise, or formalise I should say, my craft and what it's like for me, things that are unique to me. So it's been very, very helpful in that. You just sort of learn more about the world that isn't yours, and I think that's important to do. What are some of the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalising off witchcraft communities? Have I been personally affected by this, or have I witnessed someone else be affected? Yes, sort of. I'm not going to name and shame, but there have been YouTubers in the past who make these courses or witch schools or whatever, and again, this goes to show a prime example of people who have a lot of followers, have a lot of subscribers, but are not experts, and people have been left scammed, people have been left paying hundreds of dollars or pounds or whatever, and not really getting their money's worth, complaining and not getting that money back. So it's you see that a lot, again, grifters, and it is a shame. It's awful to witness, because you really don't need to spend money to learn. Okay, there's ads on this video, for example, there's ads on my videos, there's ads on YouTube videos, but in terms of actually paying money, you don't really need to sacrifice hundreds of pounds or whatever currency to learn very basic stuff. I see that capitalisation in the community a lot, and I do think that's a shame. But that's not a diss at paid courses in general, because there are a lot of really cool ones and good ones. But I've not personally been affected by this, because thankfully my mum sort of grew me up understanding this sort of problem and avoiding it. So luckily I sort of had her as a guide in that way. But you know, unfortunately a lot of people don't. You do see it online, and it's awful. And it's things like people impersonating other creators on Instagram for tarot readings or whatever readings, and then them getting scammed out of money because of it, because they think they're talking to a creator. It's awful. Like, it's so sad to see it, but that's why you gotta be careful. Gotta vet your people that you're talking to. Should there be paywalled communities and online courses? Yes and no. Is that an annoying answer? Sorry. I don't know if there should be paywalled communities. I don't exactly know what that means, but there are traditions that are sort of gated by certain events, time and energy. Like, for example, like British traditional Wicca. You go through training, which is usually a year, and you go through a ceremonial process of initiation, but there is no financial cost to that, really. Not direct financial cost. And there isn't really that I know of in other traditions, so I don't think that it should be financially gate-kept like that. I don't think that's really that right. Because ultimately you've got to think about why we're all sort of doing this, why all of this stuff is important for us, you know? And if the answer to that is money, you've got to be careful with who you're surrounding yourself around. But online courses, I think, are valuable, and if someone's put a lot of time and effort and years of their life into the study of a particular deity or a particular topic of magic or whatever, a tradition, and they want to put what they've done into a training course and, you know, get paid for that time and that education, I don't necessarily see something that's wrong with that. It just really depends on the context of which you're doing it and all those sorts of things I spoke about before. So online, like, courses inherently are not bad, but you just really got to be careful with who you're funding. That's my tip. How does one ensure the authenticity of courses, workshops, memberships as a financial investment? So research the course maker, the author, the whoever. Are they recognised in their field? Have they done any published works? Maybe ask other people online, have they heard of this person? Ask for people's opinions. If they're an author, read their book reviews. Just things like that. You just got to do a bit of research, got to do a bit of digging, ask around, just try and vetting the person. If not a lot comes up, I would be wary of them. Also, if they're an online creator, for example, they're doing online courses, see how long they've been an online creator for. If they've only really been doing it for a few months and suddenly they've got online courses which may look good but they're like hundreds of pounds, I would be a bit hesitant to support them. You know, like, someone with a history of education and being online in the community for an established amount of time is more trustworthy to me as opposed to someone who's seen something and maybe gone, ooh, there's money in witchcraft, I'm gonna capitalise off of that. You know, you just gotta think about things like that, really. And conclusion. So, what are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more in our community? I would like more awareness and education about traditions of magic that aren't in the spotlight, you know? I just would like a bit more diversity out there. It would be nice. I would like people to have more uncomfy talks, discussions, candid and honest discussions about how they feel as a creator or how they feel in the community, and active ways to help lead our community in the right direction, like this hashtag, for example. Just talking about this stuff, inspiring other people to talk about it, that is a positive thing to do. And it's fun to do videos like this anyway, so I'm gonna do it. So yeah, shout out to the Redhead Witch, shout out to Polish Folk Witch, and shout out to Ella Harrison. Like, this is such a good idea, and this is the kind of stuff that we need to be talking about and doing more. Where would I like to feel more held and supported? Oh, that's a really hard question to answer, because I do feel like it's a bit gross to ask for more support as a creator, because, you know, just like shilling yourself is just it gives me, like, cringes me. I hate doing it. But like, I guess as an upcoming author, like, that is something I would like to go well. So that, I guess. Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen in my community? Oh, I don't know. I guess I do a lot of videos on English folk magic, and I would like to be more established in that field, but then I also feel like I've got a lot more to do to earn that, so yeah. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at answering these kinds of questions. How can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and grow in the community? Honestly, just by doing things like this. I know I said it before, but it's just good to be honest about how we feel, and then we can realise that actually we all kind of have the similar worries and like pressures that we also recognise we don't really need. So I knew it was going to happen, and it happened. My camera battery died, so I'm doing this little filming on my phone for the end bit because I just cannot be bothered to wait. And yes, I know I need a new battery. I will get one eventually. So it was only a few questions left anyway. I think the last question was to do with giving out constructive criticism without it being aggressive, I guess. It's really difficult because as someone who's done a lot of book reviews, I've spoken about a lot of books, sometimes I wouldn't say negative, but I would say I've criticised books before, and now as someone who's an upcoming author, obviously I'm really worried about that, but I think I've always tried to give my opinion and state why in a fair manner. There's no need to talk about or criticise anyone's like appearance or like person. If you're critiquing someone's work, make it be about the work. So there's stuff like that to consider. Ultimately, like, being honest about feelings as well helps. So, you know, if I need to give constructive criticism, it's like I'm not trying to be combative, but, you know, I do want to talk about this, and I think that this is this, and it's just, I think, just trying to be honest and candid with how I'm feeling about the situation, leaving room for them to express their feelings, and then sort of getting to the point. That's kind of, I think, the process that works for me. I don't know if it's right, but ultimately, giving constructive criticism in the community, like witchcraft related, without it being aggressive, I think is just if you feel quite strongly about something, maybe it's something that someone's done wrong or something that you think is someone's done wrong, and you have a lot of emotive energy behind it, wait until it's dissipated a little. Write your feelings down, go through it, maybe go through it with someone else. It's always good to vent to a best friend or something. That's okay. You know, if you need to vent and be angry to someone about it, let it be someone who is able to absorb that and has got your back to support you, you know. I would suggest go through those sorts of stages, and then when you're able to contribute your critique, your feedback in a way which is constructive, then do so. A lot of the times acting on impulse, on our immediate emotional reaction, is what makes these situations really bad. It's where you see all the drama that happens online, that's why. So it's good to take a step back from it, to be honest, clear your head and come back at it from a new perspective. Embody the hangman energy, okay? That's my witchy tip. The next question was to do with how can we do better about receiving this? This is something I would actually like to know. Because, you know, I'm a Leo, my chart is like 70% fire, and I can be a little bit feisty. But I do try to ground myself. I do try to go through those stages. Try not to take things personally, or at least like I'm preparing myself for my book release. And people maybe not liking it, I don't know. It's just anxiety, really. But ultimately, if I am encountering someone that has genuine constructive criticism, I will sit on it, think about it, and ask the opinion of others who I trust, you know, to give me an honest answer. And I'll just honestly analyse the process, try and see it from their point of view, and if I think they're wrong, or if I think that the criticism was unwarranted, or for whatever reason, I will want to have a discussion with them. If I think that it is gonna be a productive conversation, if I don't, then I might just accept that they view it differently to me, for example. So it's just about, I guess, trying to maintain the balance in your head, like centering and grounding, and meditation helps with this a lot. Meditation helps with everything, so meditate. It's my it's my advice. Yeah. The last question was, what creators do I feel inspired by? And I'm gonna leave some pictures and links down below. At the moment, I feel really inspired by, and I love watching the content of Bente, Isha, Asta, Ella Harrison, Joanna. At the moment, I love their channels. I think they're doing really great work. Go support them, because and I'm probably missing out some peeps. Sorry if I am. But at the moment, I feel really inspired by them. I think that their content is really authentic and honest and interesting, to be honest. So yeah, those are my choices for that question, and go support them. I'll leave their links down below. Thank you for watching if you got to the end of this video. Sorry that my camera cut out and this is all really awkward and my hands are shaky. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you got to the end, let me know, and you know, answer some of the questions in the comments, or do your own video for this hashtag. You know, it would be nice to talk about this sort of stuff. If anyone's felt similarly to me or felt differently, you know, yeah, let's talk about it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.